Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CVHP News. I'm Sonora Scott. It's Tuesday, February 18th. Just a reminder that early voting for the March 3rd primaries begins today. You can vote at the Ed B. and Francis Frink Keys building located downtown. Now to a swearing-in ceremony that happened yesterday at the courthouse right across the street. Anthony Monaco took the oath of office for the Tom Green County District Clerk's position. He's replacing Sherry Woodfin, who just retired after holding that title since 1999. Monaco says he's looking forward to working with the community. And continuing our Remarkable Women series, today we introduce you to Dr. Sangeeta Singh.
I hail from India, and I lived in Chandigarh, which is capital of Punjab state. And at age 17, I came to the United States. And since that time, I've been raising myself.
Dr. Sangeeta Singh and her ex-husband got their citizenship and came to the United States to pursue education in the 1960s. They both attended Mississippi State University.
My ex-husband did his PhD. I completed my master's. And I was 20 years old when I completed my master's in 1970. We moved to Commerce, Texas, because that's where he got the job. And then he decided I could not go to school anymore because he wanted us to have a child. So that's how our life started. And he said one PhD is enough in the family. I wasn't that strong-willed then. It wasn't anything unusual because in India, women, especially, this is 52 years ago, you pretty much obeyed what your husband said. So it didn't cause any problem at that time for me. And that's how that we had a son who was a special needs child, and then things went downhill from after his birth.
Dr. Singh says her ex-husband is from a different caste than she is. She says in his culture, female children are seen as a curse and are often aborted, and special needs children are not accepted, so he didn't want anything to do with their son. While she tried to keep their family together, he quickly divorced her, went back to India, and married another woman about 2 months later in hopes of having many sons. It was during this period when Dr. Singh's mother came to live with her. Dr. Singh then pursued her PhD, driving 160 miles a day to attend classes and make sure her son attended a school for special needs children. After getting her PhD, she says her father's hopes for her came true.
When I was leaving, India, his last words were, "Don't come back until you are an authority on your subject." He meant to get a PhD, terminal degree. And so I felt that I had fulfilled his wishes, and I also was going to be gainfully employed now.
Dr. Singh has been a professor at Angelo State University for over 2 decades. She says teaching for her is a calling, and her goal is to inspire her students.
See, I was a little girl from India. I had $25 in pocket when I came. One suitcase. And I have many suitcases now.
Another factor she attributes to staying positive and persistent is the faith she found in 2006.
My life changed 180 degrees. So one thing since then, my mantra is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I just say that. Anytime I'm doing anything, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that's my way of doing it. But I would tell others that whatever you do, give your very best to it. Whatever you say, whatever you do, if you give your very best, you will be successful.
Reporting on the Concho Valley's Remarkable Women, I'm Sonora Scott.
And we are back with our guest. It's Trooper Tuesday.
It is.
Already again, I'm so excited. Sergeant Justin Baker joining us, of course. So what are we going to talk about today?
All right, so we always want to talk about relevant topics.
Yeah.
And things that affect our health or our habits of driving and safety. But today is going to be more of the health and talking about vaping epidemic that's currently taking place.
Yes, and I'm glad you used that word epidemic, because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, what's the definition of epidemic?
I don't know. Please tell me.
I will tell you. It's a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community at a particular time. So, that being said, this is definitely an epidemic that's spreading across the United States. And so when we talk about vaping in teenagers, it's like we start to try to put together pieces of a puzzle to figure out, why did it become an epidemic? And this became something very, very relevant on my radar within the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Just sitting at a sporting event for a high school and realizing that there was a group of teens using one of these devices. And I was a little shocked because of how unaware I was at the moment that they had one, and then the fact that it was, unless I was just really looking, I would have never noticed what they were doing. And it was one of those things that was passed around between about 4 or 5 teenagers.
Yeah.
And so when I started looking up all the information, sure enough, the word epidemic, it just kept popping up. So I was like, okay, let's get a program together about educating the teenagers, the parents, the educators, and let's try to figure out how we can deter this from happening in our community. Yeah. So unfortunately, one of those things where I'm on the catch up. I'm trying to catch up to what's already been taking place for quite some time. And so let's start off with the device itself.
Yeah.
By definition, it's a battery operated device that is used to inhale an aerosol, and it has a variety of chemicals in it. And there's about 460 of them on the market, probably more than that by now. And so you start saying, oh my gosh, like that's a lot. Well, let's talk again. The device, you can see them come in a variety of ways. You've got the smaller ones that you see at the convenience stores, hookah pins, and then all the way up to your mods, which are the fancier, heavy-duty ones where you see the great big vape cloud, and it looks like the car's on fire.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a picture. Do you want to show that right now?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see a small portion of what we see that are available at vape stores and at the convenience stores even. From the Juul there, the Views, Alto, the Zero, and the Soren Drop, and even Enjoy is one I saw the other day. And so these right here are just an example of what we've seen that have been confiscated by educators at schools.
Yeah.
And so you see the make of them. They look like little USB drives. They some of them even light up. They're bright, they're shiny, and they're electronic.
And they're small.
Yeah, they're very small, and they've made them even smaller. And so that in alone is appealing to a younger generation when we talk about being technology savvy and just like that tech world.
Yeah.
So that has its one part to it. So we have that out there on the market, and then the next part is that flooded the market was flavors. And we talk about flavors, we're talking about many thousands of flavors that are out there. And
like candy,
really. And sure enough, that's what I was going to say.
Fruity,
they have cherry, gummy bear, cotton candy. All these are very similar, even down to Fruit Loops and Cheerios.
Yeah.
And so that's appealing to kids as well, and adults as well. You know, we all like Jolly Ranchers and things like that. So that you start getting those things to taste like candies. And so you have the technology, you have the flavors. Well, with the basic chemicals like your propylene glycol, your vegetable glycerin, water, which is a very small percentage, well, then your flavorings are going to have chemicals as well. And one of the common chemicals that was used for a period of time was diacetyl. Well, studies showed that over the years, those that are making artificial popcorn flavoring, they were using diacetyl. And sure enough, standing over the little vacuums and stirring and doing all that for an extended period of time, they realized they were getting sick with a disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which we call popcorn lung now. Yeah. And that's a severe and irreversible lung disease that affects the bronchial arteries. And so that's scarring. And just like any of us have a scar on our body, scars don't go away. Same with the lungs. If you scar your lungs, it's not going to go away. So now we have coughing, shortness of breath, wheezing, and those things that I always tell a teenager, imagine taking a deep breath, holding it as long as you can, and then when you can finally breathe again, hold your nose and put a straw in your mouth. And that's the only way you're going to be able to breathe. Yeah. And imagine trying to catch your breath now. Yeah. And it's irreversible, and that's something that's caused by extended use and people just thinking that this is relatively safe, and it's not.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like everybody kind of started using, started vaping because they thought, oh, it's safer.
Right.
But it's really, really not.
Right. Safer's not as safe. The reason that it was created, the modern version in 2003 by a Chinese pharmacist named Han Li. He says the reason he created it was to provide a safe and harmless means for a method of smoking by replacing burning tobacco and paper with a heated, moist flavored air. And that means we're replacing cigarettes because we know they have thousands of chemicals in them. Over 7,000, I think,
it's a
chemicals
lot
in there. And so, yeah, we definitely want to get away from all those chemicals. But we don't want to just try to replace it with a smaller set of chemicals that are just going to be as dangerous. What the goal was to get away from smoking altogether. Well, why is it so hard to get away from smoking? What are they putting in there? That's the other piece of the puzzle, is when we talk about nicotine. A lot of kids were going out there thinking that they were smoking a product or vaping a product that only had flavors in it. And they said, oh, no, it's just Jolly Rancher, it's just Gummy Bear, whatever. But that's not the case, because what they did was they put nicotine in there, again, a very addictive chemical. But when you talk about a traditional cigarette with 6 milligrams of nicotine to 25 milligrams of nicotine, your stronger ones, and in between, that's a pretty strong amount. Well, they are using nic salts in some of these products, salt nic, and what that is using benzoic acid. They make it to where it vaporizes at a lower temperature. It is a smoother hit, but much stronger. And when I say smoother, the traditional, again, 6 to 25, you're going to feel that in your throat as it's going down. Well, they increased it up to 50 milligrams, but because of these acids, they've made it down so smooth that you don't even feel that going into your lungs. And so now if you don't feel it, you don't even realize you're getting that nicotine buzz, that hit instantly. It goes straight to the brain. And they don't realize it's even happening. And now you're talking 50 milligrams. And so now your brain has all these little receptors in there, and nicotine receptors are there as well. And so now it's being flooded with nicotine. Your brain's saying, this feels great. That gives a little buzz, and it says, hey, I want more. So it's going to create more receptors. And you can never get back up to that first experience, but you're going to keep developing more and more receptors trying to get the fix.
Recreate it.
We say it's jonesing for a cig, because those kids are out there just shaking to the point they've got to get that fix, because their brain has got so stimulated by so much nicotine. And it only takes a few times, because one pod is equivalent to nearly 2 packs of cigarettes in nicotine.
Wow.
And so when these kids get a hold of 1 pod or 2 pods, they try it for a couple days, or maybe even a day, unfortunately, where they're going through a pod a day. They're already addicted. And then they think, well, I was just getting Jolly Rancher or Gummy Bear, but in fact they were getting flooded with nicotine, and now they're addicted to it. And so when you put all those pieces of the puzzle together, it's easy to see where the epidemic's coming from, and the deception that comes along with it on those that manufactured it. But we've gone further in deception now. We all know that Louis Vuitton and Apple and Nike or whatever. When I say that, I say it because they make fake products. They make fake Louis Vuitton. They make fake Nike. They make fake Apple products. They don't stop with e-cigarettes. There's companies out there that have made fake products. And so it looks like a Juul pod. And the thing is, Juul pods aren't available out there on the shelves anymore. You have to go through a specific way of ordering it online to go through a checks and balance to make sure that you're proper age, and then you can get it. Well, if you're seeing these products out there on the shelf somewhere else, there's a good chance it's not a legit Juul product. So then again, we don't have regulations. We don't know what kind of chemicals are going into it, and it could be diacetyl again. Even though Juul said they took it out, you could be getting diacetyl in there, and we've seen a sudden increase in sickness. All these kids are getting sick. Well, there's a good chance it's because there's a lot of unregulated products out there that are mimicking what's supposed to be the legitimate products. So, and when we talk again about, like I said, the age of being the proper age, well, as of September of last year, the new age is 21 for any tobacco product. So if you're not 21 years of age or older, you cannot receive, consume, or purchase any tobacco products, e-cigarettes, or e-cigarette products. And so the fine on that is a $250 fine. You're going to have to attend an e-cigarette tobacco awareness program, which is going to cost roughly about another $80. And if you don't get signed up for those programs within 90 days of that citation being issued, after that 90th day, the judge is going to suspend your license for 180 days.
Wow.
And that wasn't such a big deal for those that were younger than 18 years of age.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about 18, 19, 20 years old, and now you're talking about losing your license. Well, now you can't get to work.
Yep.
You can't go to college, and you're going to be all of a sudden putting a lot of other people out, on top of all the fees that are going to have to be paid for reinstatement and court costs and so on.
Yeah. And so let's just talk about some of the words, you know, that I picked up on you using: acid, all these chemicals, you know, chemicals, and the ones you can't even pronounce, you know, like the comment, like we don't know what, you know, these are. My kind of rule of thumb is, like, if you can't pronounce it, then just, you know, if you read the ingredients on stuff and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put that back. You know, chemicals, like, they can hurt you, obviously.
Well, vegetable glycerin alone is deemed generally safe because it's also found in antifreeze, you know, things like that. But then the heating elements and the nickel and iron and things like that are breaking off in fine little dust type particles that are being inhaled. And repetition, you know, you talk about somebody that's doing it over an extended period of time, and all of a sudden they realize one day, I do have a shortness of breath. I am wheezing. And then you realize this could be permanent. And I always tell the kids, you have a perfectly good vessel you're going through life with. and along the way, you don't know the potential risk, because we're talking short-term studies, but we're trying to figure out the long-term effects, and we just don't know yet. Why take that risk? It's almost like jumping out of an airplane and having a 50-50 chance of your parachute opening. Yeah. Are you really going to take that risk? I would hope not. And so all these parents and caretakers are out there on a daily basis trying to, you know, raise children and keep them healthy and go out there and have a perfect, happy, healthy adult life. And yet people are out there on the other end doing everything they can to try to circumvent that, only for the dollar. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. As I always tell the kids, it's like being a puppet. They're trying to make you a puppet to the industry. And they're doing a really good job because of their marketing methods. At one time, it was even to where it was available on Snapchat. All they had to do was screenshot it, who's out there juuling today or whatever other product, and it took off like a wildfire. Well, then they were going to, well, we're not going to do that because we're trying to make sure everybody knows we're trying to quit. We're going to quit. Yeah. So then they put it as a starter kit. I'm like, how's that quitting? It's a starter kit. Yeah. And so,
literally in the word starter.
Yeah, starter kit. You can go buy a Juul, and I think it was 2 or 3 pods, 4 pods for $39. Yeah. And again, at 50 milligrams of nicotine, if you smoked all 4 pods, you're going to be addicted. Exactly. Just like that, with one purchase.
And you're saying some of these high school kids go through 1 pod a day?
A day, yeah. And I know people are spending over $300 for these mods. Yeah. And one individual alone I talked to, they very clearly said, I wish I had never started. And so my next question was, well, why did you start? Did you start to get away from regular traditional cigarettes? She's like, no, I never even smoked a cigarette. I was at a party. I thought it was cool. I tried it. I liked it. And I kept doing it. And she's like, now I'm spending well over $300 a month maintaining my habit. And I was like, well, how old are you? 19. Yeah. Only 19 years old and already that addicted to this product. So it's one of those things where you talk about addiction and everybody says, well, what's the gateway? Yeah. Well, marijuana is a gateway. Well, every drug's a gateway. Yeah. And remember, nicotine is a drug. And so this could be its own gateway, because they'll start using this product, and maybe they're one that want to push the limits. You know, when race car, NASCAR, did people try to push the limits? Did we have a bad crash as a result? People always want to push the limits in anything we do, which it can be fine as long as it builds you and makes you better. But unfortunately, they do it in the drug world too. Yeah. Let's see what's next. Let's see what's next. So they go ahead and they try the pods. They smoke the nicotine. Well, then guess what? They figured out what else they can put in these pods. Yep. THC, liquid THC. So now they call it juice or honey or whatever. Yeah. So now we have a lot of kids out there that are getting a hold of pods that have THC in them. Well, they might not even know that's happening either, because you look at them together, you can't even really tell the difference. Yeah, let's take another look right now at some of these. Yeah, so you see the pods there on the right, the Juul pods. What I'll do a lot of times is I'll put those 2 pods up, and I'll ask the students which one has nicotine and which one doesn't. And they have, you know, they all raise their hand. Yeah. And when we display, half their classroom is wrong, more than half most of the time, because you just can't tell. Well, now this kid is in possession of THC, which is also the active ingredient in marijuana, which is also a state jail felony in the state of Texas, depending on how much you have. But now they're in felony possession. Now they're looking at 2 years in prison, $10,000 fine, or both.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're talking prison time for something that, you know, it's little, it's tiny, they could have in their backpack, and then they don't even know sometimes that they're getting it. And
so we have it flooding across the state as well, coming from the other states, because in some states it is legal, but it's not in Texas. Do not forget that. And don't be confused with, well, this is CBD, which is another thing that's being put in these products. Again, CBD is not going to be legal for your teenagers because it's an e-cigarette product. So we don't want to forget that. But there's a confusion there, again, because if you don't look specifically at it, they have a mixture of CBD and THC. And that's a whole nother program for a whole nother day on what CBD oil does for the brain and how it affects. But it's not legal. And it's not going to be legal for your teenagers. And so we have to make sure that that's known too. So it can be a gateway. It can continue to go, and I don't see it stopping with THC oils. I see that they're going to figure out a way to go on to your methamphetamines, your opioids, and anything else that they can put in these products, because they see it as a money market. If we can get these kids addicted on one thing because of a sweet flavor and some nicotine, and we can go all the way up to the next much more intense drug, you're going to have a bunch of what I say zombies walking around addicted to these little pins in their hands. And so it's really scary, and it's one of those things that as a parent, you don't want to get caught up in the mindset that, well, everybody's doing it. It seems so much safer than cigarettes, because it's not. It's going to lead to a different type of addiction. Yeah,
I was going to say, what do you say to parents? Because you know, sometimes they may not know. Their kids just may not know what they're getting into. But some of them, you know, kids are smart. They can lie. Kids can actually lie. So like, what would you tell the parents that their kids are saying, oh, don't worry, it's like I'm, you know, vaping Fruit Loops, it's not gonna hurt me? What do you tell them about that? Well,
knowledge is power. They need to do their research. They need to ask questions. They need to infringe on their personal space. You're the parent. You're allowed to do that. And when it comes to a backpack at school that they always walk into the house with and go straight to their room, my kids come in, they throw the backpack right there in the walkway, so we're tripping over it. So we're like, okay, so but if you realize that, hey, one day tell them, hey, put your backpack right there, and you can go ahead and see how that behavior starts to change.
If they get that
and they're frozen and they keep coming back to the backpack and looking at it, there's probably a good indication that it's in there. You can pay attention to the clothing line and the swag that comes along with it, because they have different images and even clothing brands that are specific towards idolizing it, but also concealing the products themselves. Wearing those long sleeves on a hot day, because a lot of times they'll figure out a way to inhale and then blow the vapor down the sleeve.
And again, these are tiny things. You know, it could look like small. A jump drive, a flash drive.
And as I said, the first time I watched it happening in front of me and it's being passed around, I never saw the vape cloud. But I knew that it was going to each one of their mouths, but they were figuring out how to hide the product and conceal it. And so you just really got to pay attention to the technology as well, the charging devices, the ports, and all those different things that look like fancy little electronics. But sure enough, that's in giving this program, and I've lost count, but for the last 2 years, almost 2 to 3 times a day at different schools, from here to Cisco to far west Texas. One of the individuals I showed it to that's presenting it as well, after they saw that, they didn't even realize it was happening right in their own home until they saw, they didn't even realize to look for those little charging mechanisms. It's always important to, again, we're parents, we're not friends. We've got to go and ask those tough questions. Even if you don't want to know the answer, you could be preventing something from happening further down the road with addiction or again, any way that they can take advantage of somebody by just entrapping them and saying, hey, you use this product, now you know you shouldn't have, and I'll tell on you. And they can extort them in some way. It's really sad the different number of avenues people could go with these products.
It really is, and I'm glad you said that, you know, because some parents may think, you know, I think like even some of us, you know, we thought when it came out, oh, okay, it's just a fad, like whatever, you know, but it's not just a trend. This has long-term effects. Yes,
very long-term. Anytime it has psychological effects and reconfiguring the mechanisms of the brain, it's going to be a long-term effect. And so it always is something that I always share with when I was growing up, and my dad pushed me to stay away from any chemical, alcohol, cigarettes, and so on until I was 19 years of age.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is a challenge. He said, if you don't use it, you're less likely to ever want to use these things. Well, sure enough, as we go on with research and understand development of the brain and the frontal lobe, the brain's fully developed around 25 years of age.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was onto something, because if you can make it till about 25 years of age and have that brain fully developed, and you were to use one of these products after that, you would have less than a 1% chance of addiction afterwards. And so sure enough, he was right on the money. Here I am, a little bit older than 25.
Just a smidge.
Just
a hair.
Sure enough, you know, that's something that I'm not struggling with on a daily basis. I don't have to pay more insurance, which other people do if they have an addiction to nicotine in our agency.
Yeah.
And so I'm saving money. I'm not spending money every week or every day at the convenience store to try to keep up with a habit, just so I don't have to go through withdrawals. And those withdrawals can be very tough when you talk about the desire to use these products, just like it gets to the point where we desire to eat.
Yeah.
Have you ever got hangry?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
So our bodies start telling us we need food. Well, it's tricked being told it needs to have this nicotine to survive. And now you're going through the headaches, the frustration, the upset stomach, whatever it might be. You start going through those withdrawals, it becomes a challenge. Here I am free of those. I'm sure you're free of those. And it's a great feeling to know that we don't have that dependence.
Yeah. It is. So, I like to breathe, you know.
Yeah,
breathing
is a good thing. So there's a lot of studies that are going on, and they're continuing to study every day, because we're seeing those pictures where kids have their chest cut open for a lung replacement.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
at such a young age.
Yeah, and other ones where they're 18 years old and they almost died because, sure enough, his drug dealer gave him something he wasn't supposed to be getting. And you're like, what world do we live in when you can't trust your drug dealer anymore, right? So,
I know.
So, but yeah, that's been a really. I did the program on Valentine's Day, and I mean, it's just one of those things. I keep getting calls on a weekly basis of where can you go do this program next, and I want to give this program to as many people as possible, as many kids as possible, because I look at it as if somebody were to try to offer something that could cause a heart disease or cancer to one of my kids, after I fought so hard and to keep them happy and healthy. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that to my kid? Why would you want to do that to somebody else's kid? Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is invest in yourself just like everybody else is investing.
Definitely. Well, okay, so unfortunately we're out of time. There's so much we could talk about. We may have to come back and do another one of these on this topic, because again, Trooper Tuesday, 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month. So send in your questions. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about this. If someone wants to get you to come to their school or their
any
office,
venue, I'd be happy to come. It's a 30-minute program. It covers all that information we just talked about. It's all through PowerPoint, and it's free of charge again.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So get a hold of Justin, and like you said, knowledge is power.
Yes,
so
very much.
Thank you for educating us.
You bet. I'm glad to be here always.
Well, good. We're going to see him again 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, but that's it for now. Man, this went so fast. It was like 5 minutes, but man. Okay, so that's all for right now. But hey, we're going to see you back here tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.